This is called slave training. Oh my goodness. So I came across a post by King Randall. And for those who don't know King Randall, I've supported his work in the past, but I think I may have to put a halt on that given this recent video. What he's done is he's had a school where he teaches, black boys and underprivileged children about, changing the tire on a car, basic car mechanics, how to replace a toilet, things like that. Really great stuff. But in this recent video, this is where he loses my support. And it seems that he's gotten a bunch of flack for his video, and I would argue rightfully so. What this video pertains to is how to handle a traffic stop. And he talks from the sense of you being a slave. Now, as you guys know, I went from a bootlicking to one extent to very much pro citizen. And that's where I am right now, based off of the hypocrisy I saw with the right and how they, addressed, an Ashley Babbitt, but then tried to vilify George Floyd and things like that. Just this hypocrisy of whether the person was a criminal or a hero based off the color of their skin. Whether they chose to acknowledge it or not, that's what it very much was. He says in the video, hey, you should put your hands out, 10 and 2, always have your ID out. And he's asked the kids, why do you have your ID out? Why should you have your ID out? And the kids are like, I don't know. He's like, fidgeting, because you don't want the officers to feel uncomfortable when you fidget.
First thing I want to do is already have my stuff ready, okay?
Yes, sir.
You don't want to get to the freaking car, and when he gets to the car, you got to go fumbling around looking for stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
Why don't we want to fumble around looking for stuff? Exactly, they're going to feel unsafe, you understand?
Yes, sir.
So regardless of whether they should or shouldn't feel unsafe, that makes somebody feel unsafe, you fumbling around, because things happen, right?
Yes, sir.
So
I'm like, that's strike one. First off, I don't give a damn how the officers feel, okay? I'm a United States American citizen. That's what I am. I'm an American citizen. And upon being on this land, I have certain rights. You feeling uncomfortable has nothing to do with what I legally can and can't do. Now, I hear what you're saying. Well, what you're doing is giving an officer, leeway to pow. Listen, we've already seen a litany of examples of officers doing exactly that without having without being agitated. So I don't want to hear that as an excuse, and that's an excuse that these saltine racists on the right constantly use to validate black victims, to validate black death. And I'm not going to promote that. And I sure as hell is not going to say that to a bunch of black youth. I think this is damaging and extremely problematic. But let's continue. Then he goes on to say that, hey, a matter of fact, I'm going to roll the windows down because I got nothing to hide.
when they get there, the first thing you want to do is already have your license ready and have your hands on the steering wheel, you understand?
Yes, sir.
Have your hands on the steering wheel, why?
Because before they don't think you reach for them.
So you're not reaching for stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. And another thing I want to do, I'm going to let all my windows down, okay? I ain't got nothing to hide, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm going to let all my windows down in the car. And if it's nighttime, I'm going to turn the car light on so he can see everything in the car, right?
Yes, sir.
Why am I doing that?
But he don't think you trying to hide nothing or somebody trying to hide something for you.
That's strike number 2, player. That's strike number 2. I don't have to roll the windows down to prove that I have nothing to hide, because as we've seen, here's the thing. The problem is you had an officer alongside you, and you should have had an attorney. That's what you should have had, because you are training these black youth to be slaves. That's what you are training them to be. And that is extremely problematic in a country that we want to say is free, in a country that we have rights as citizens. Doing all of this is not going to change their opinion of you. This is very much akin to respectability politics. Whereas, hey, if you just talk like this and dress like that and behave like this, well, then they wouldn't call you the N-word. Well, then they would serve you at the whites only diner. Well, then they wouldn't, pew pew you. Well, then, no. That is bull crap, and history has taught us time and time again that is a false narrative. That is a false flag. That is something they give to us to make us once again slaves in our own country. You rolling up the windows has nothing to do with anything. That officer, if that officer thinks you have something, he can simply say, as he says in the video, I smell marijuana. and out you go. Or they can have a dog. Say, hey, you can't search my car. They have a dog and they get, that's where we are in this country. That's the problem. The problem is not the citizen. The problem is law enforcement, is the corruption within these police unions. Then he goes on to say that, hey, when someone says they smell marijuana, well, there's nothing you can do at that point.
Now, he can say he smelled marijuana, right?
Yes, sir.
If he says he smelled marijuana, there is nothing that you can do about it. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Get out the car. You understand?
What I would advocate for him to do is get an attorney. Get an attorney to teach these little youth their rights. To teach them, hey, how to not incriminate yourself. Because the reason why I'm so passionate about this, because I've seen stories like this. I've seen people like this. I've seen people who are, they're innocent and they have been found to be guilty. There are plenty in the prisons of black men who thought just like this, and they are found to be guilty because their words betray them. They thought by explaining everything to the officer, they were going to be fine and dandy. And the next thing they know, every single word they had, they used against them. Law enforcement is not your friend. Yes, you should be fearful when you come across law enforcement because they are given the power to take your life, and they are legally allowed to in 99.9% of cases, unless absolutely egregious, and you can prove it. Aside from their body cam or any type of footage, it is game over in that court system. So teaching these young black boys to say there's nothing you can do, that I would argue that goes against the whole victim mentality, doesn't it? The same thing that these SALT teams want to constantly say, whatever victim, stop being a victim. That's a victim mentality talking about you. There's nothing you can do about it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What he should be having is these lawyers teaching them, hey, these are your rights. This is how you don't incriminate yourself. Because what these officers are looking, they're fishing for something. And if they can't find something, they're in a bad mood, they will try and get you on anything. So this is what you say. This is what you don't say. Something like this, you're teaching them to be slaves. That's what you're practically teaching them to do, to be slaves. And you are being a slave in the country. And these officers will take advantage of that. They will take advantage of you not knowing your rights. 110%. Then he comes out and says, strike three for me. I think we've already passed strike three. But then he goes on and says, hey, well, the best way, you want to know the best way to not deal with officers is not commit a crime.
Yes, sir.
And of course, the best way to not have to interact with the police is what? Not break the law, right?
Yes, sir.
Don't be speeding, put your seatbelt on. Don't be riding with your cell phone in your hand.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Pimpin', that is strike 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What are you doing? King Randall, okay? What are you doing? You're not teaching these boys to be kings. You teaching them to act like peasants. A king doesn't act like that. A king does not brainwash your children into being slaves. That's not what a king does. The best way to avoid officers is to not do a crime. Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Lord, this is the problem with many of these right-leaning individuals. Their hearts are in the right direction, but on certain cases, such as law enforcement, they lose their mind. They lose it. Would you tell that to the people of 1776? Y'all love the country. Y'all want to celebrate Independence Day. Well, what happened if those people, right, they had the same mind about the British? Well, I'm just going to do what they say. I'm just going to do what they say. I don't want any problem. What the country was founded off of not bootlicking. And here you are. Do you understand? As much y'all love your presidents and everything in this history, these people would be turning in their graves to know that you are teaching children to be slaves of the state. That is asinine. You should be ashamed of yourself, King Randall. And I hear what he said. He's saying, well, I'm going to fight it in court. How are you going to fight it in court? Huh? If you are teaching impoverished kids, what money do they have to fight in court? Anyone who's ever been in court knows you have to have capital to fight for your rights. You don't have any rights. That piece of paper is meaningless. That judge doesn't care about the Constitution as much as the next judge. What you need to fight for your rights is capital. Now, how the hell is someone who is living in an impoverished neighborhood who barely has enough, right? Average American doesn't have $500 in their savings account. How are they going to fight for their rights in court, King Randall? What we should be teaching them is how to not be slaves to the state, how to not be victims of these state soldiers, how to fight for your rights. It is better okay, to tell an officer no. That is a violation of my constitutional right and be in the right. Because listen, there comes a point in time where you got to pick up. You got to pick up and fight. And what I mean by fight, no, for anyone who wants to say that's a threat, because you already know there's some Sambos out there. He threatening y'all. We already know y'all, many of y'all ain't about that life. We saw during the lockdowns. The same Billy Bob who constantly has 6, 5, and 8 guns got told to sit his ass down at home. And guess what Billy Bob did? Sat his white butt down at home. Didn't lift a finger, didn't do anything. The same person who had the business, they were told to shut it down. By who? Law enforcement. That's not freedom. That's a police state. That's what that is. So what we should be fighting for is to remove the privileges that many of these freaking state soldiers have, that many of these gang members have, that many of them are anti-black have, who go into our communities and exploit us via ignorance, who exploit us because they know that we don't have the resources to fight for our rights in court. And in the meantime, between time, we're going to be rotting away in prison until some charity comes and finds and discovers our case and realizes, oh, the officer planted drugs on you. Oh, the judge was in corruption with the prosecutor. Oh. And I understand there is a way to assert yourself as a citizen while being respectful. Let me just repeat that. I'm not advocating for people to go, oh man, F y'all, I know my rights. That's not what I'm advocating for you to do. What I'm advocating for you to do is exactly what many of the Karens do. Exactly how they train the little white boys and the little white girls, okay? Is to assert themselves with dominance and authority. That's what you do. You can be respectful. Some of y'all have probably gotten fired respectfully. Well, you know what? We're going to be going a different way, okay? The company is going to be heading in a different direction, but we wish you the best in all of your endeavors. And if you need, as far as a signature or referral, we're more than happy to help you, okay? You take care, please. Miss me with this nonsense. You can absolutely be respectful with asserting your rights in this country as an American citizen. 100%. Instead of getting a freaking pig, what you should have gotten was an attorney who knew your rights and knew as far as how officers can, the pitfalls that officers use when it comes to Americans to enslave us. That's what you should have done instead of teaching these little black boys to be slaves, to be modern day slaves of these state soldiers. Disgusting. Anyways, guys, that's the video. I don't care what y'all have to say. If you a bootlicker, then by all means, go ahead and lick the boot, pimpin'. But let me just tell you this. That is un-American and unpatriotic as it comes. You might as well be a commie, okay? For all you might as well go to China, okay? Go wherever you want. But in the United States of America, that is not what we condone. That is not what we promote, and that is not what we should endorse. Absolutely not. If you happen to disagree, you're more than welcome to call in during disagreement days, which is typically held Friday through Sunday. There'll be a number on screen. You call in, we duke it out. Either or. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm in the wrong here. Maybe I'm not thinking this through, and maybe I'm just really irate based off of the crime that I've seen within law enforcement against Americans. Especially black Americans, or if you don't believe, hey, I'm right on the nose, all right, and this fool is, he's lost his way, I don't know what's going on. Either or, please feel free to share and subscribe and all that fun stuff. Till next time, guys, be amazing.
And of course, the best way to not have to interact with the police is what? Not break the law, right?